I'm Stan Cooper. I'm a 24-year resident of Williamson County. I'm a retiree from Bridgestone Americas, a major employer here in Middle Tennessee. There I had a 38-year career in various management positions in engineering, sales, and marketing. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer about a year ago. It was judged to be a low to intermediate risk level, but did demand some form of aggressive intervention. From my perspective, there are three facts about cancer. Number one, the most devastating words that you will ever hear personally are these: you have cancer. Number two, the fear of the treatment is as unnerving as the disease itself. And number three, cancer is not just a personal thing. It impacts the entire family. I can tell you personally that my wife and both my daughters were as devastated as I was. Being the analytical person that I am, I launched immediately into an intense investigation of the options that were available for treatment. I met with a urologist, radiologist, oncologist, and my primary care physician. I only discovered proton therapy through a friend of a friend who had had the treatment for his prostate cancer done at the University of Florida, Jacksonville facility. I contacted them and got a great deal of information from them. They were most helpful, sympathetic, and comforting. They sent a very large packet in the mail of materials that I could digest. They warned me that there was a possibility that I would encounter insurance hurdles. My insurer at the time was Aetna, and I had that policy through a spousal arrangement with my wife's employer, Williamson Medical Center. I got on the phone to Aetna to talk to those folks about coverage of proton therapy for prostate cancer. And there I discovered that, in fact, they did not offer coverage for proton therapy in the treatment of prostate cancer. Obviously, I was very disappointed. They referred me to a policy position paper on their website, policy position paper 0270, and recommended that I read that so that I could get an understanding of why they covered certain kinds of cancers and didn't cover others. So I studied, went to the website and I studied this position paper in detail, read it from beginning to end. And there were several parts of this position paper that were a little bewildering and confusing to me. Here is the portion that addresses the coverage of prostate cancer. Aetna considers proton beam radiotherapy for treatment of prostate cancer not medically necessary for individuals with localized prostate cancer because it has not been proven to be more effective than other radiotherapy modalities of this indication. As I read further, I observed those types of cancers that were in fact covered by proton therapy. They included brain tumors, tumors at the base of the skull, and in general, a whole family of tumors that were inoperable. Also, I observed that all the malignancies, all and any malignancies in children 21 years of age and younger were in fact covered. So this was a little disappointing news for me, but I discovered a couple things subsequent to that were very encouraging. Number one, I was made aware of the fact that Medicare did in fact cover prostate cancer with the treatment of proton therapy. And I also discovered that there were 15 facilities throughout the country that were involved in proton therapy radiation. And one of them was a state-of-the-art facility in Knoxville, the Provision Center for Proton Therapy, that had been operational for a little over a year. So at this point, I took a look at all my treatment options and tried to hone in on the one that made the most sense for me. I looked at surgery, and surgery was not attractive as an option for me. First of all, I'm a heart patient. I've had quadruple bypass surgery, so any kind of surgery for a heart patient like me, of my age, certainly represents a risk. I was also a little disturbed by the probability of long-term side effects that included incontinence and enhanced erectile dysfunction. I also looked at the conventional photon radiation in its current form. It's referred to as IMRT. There are obviously side effects during the treatment phase of this disease because of the dosages of radiation administered. There's also the concern about long-term risks because radiation does in fact touch good tissue. There is the concern about secondary cancers down the road, and for the prostate treatment, those secondary cancers would involve organs like the bladder and the colon. So after observing all my options, I came to the conclusion that proton therapy represented the best possible option for me as a patient. So then I engaged in an intense program to get my insurance coverage converted from Aetna over to Medicare and some Medicare supplement program. I was fortunate to be able to achieve this on a very expedited basis with the help of the Social Security Administration and AARP United Healthcare. I was able to secure coverage and cancel my Aetna coverage and begin treatments at the Provision Center for Proton Therapy in Knoxville in the early part of May. Those treatments, 39 in number, were stretched out over an 8-week period. Daily treatments, which only entailed 15 to 20 minutes. My wife and I would travel over to Knoxville on Monday, come back on Friday, every week for 8 weeks. A little bit of a challenge, a little bit of a burden, but certainly doable and worth the time and the investment. I can tell you that this was easily the most non-invasive, benign treatment of a serious illness that I could ever have hoped for in my entire life. It's now 6 months since the conclusion of my treatments, and my PSA level, that's the prostate-specific antigen, has been reduced from 4.5 at the time of diagnosis down to about the 1.0 level. We're projecting that when I have my year checkup, that level will be below 0.5, hovering close to 0. And the battle will have ended. My hope and my wish is that all cancer patients that have to face this dreaded disease can have the same experience that I had. The ability to have access to all the available options and to be able to choose that treatment that best meets their individual needs with the counsel of their physician team. Thank you so much for watching my personal story of my battle against cancer. I wish you success if you ever have to encounter this dreaded disease. Godspeed.